The Charlotte Hornets cannot be stopped. They get a blowout victory against the Philadelphia 76ers thanks to 30 points by Brandon Miller, and they do something they haven't done all season long. I'll tell you all about it on this edition of Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Hornets, your daily podcast on the Charlotte Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm Doug Branson. You can find my work on everyhornetsboxscore.com, where momentarily I will have game notes up on a 130-93. That's right, 130-93 victory by the Charlotte Hornets over the Philadelphia 76ers. And they extend their winning streak to 3. That's the first time they've won 3 games in a row this season. They've had 3 two-game winning streaks. This is the first time they've been able to string 3 games together, and they have been playing masterful offensive and defensive basketball over the past couple of weeks, but they once again hold an opponent to under 100 points. I mean, it was rare early in the season for this team to hold another team to under 115 points. Like that was an early season victory, and now it seems to be becoming the norm. For I believe 3 out of the last 4 or 4 out of the last 5 games, the Hornets have held their opponent to under 100 points. This is Charles Lee putting his imprint on the team. This is a team finally with their best players healthy for consecutive games. It is about health, you know, as much as the team doesn't want to make excuses about, well, we're a man down, or this guy wasn't healthy, or that guy wasn't healthy. This is about health, not just from the perspective of they have their best players available to make plays. That is important. I mean, look, the Hornets' main rotation players, the starters for sure, were out of this game by the fourth quarter, because the Hornets went into the fourth quarter, get this, with a 50-point lead. And so no need. It was a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander situation for Brandon Miller, who had 30 points going into the fourth quarter. Your services no longer needed, sir. The win is at hand after 50 points. There's not a lot that's guaranteed in the NBA, but you take a 50-point lead into the fourth quarter and you can pretty much sew that up and say, all right, we're done here. So they go into the fourth quarter, and you can see, you know, they get Tijon out there, they get Trey Mann out there, Pat Connaughton's playing some minutes, and you see the ropes start to let go a little bit. You see the consistency in the offense, the ball movement, the sharpness, the little details that Brandon Miller talked about post-game, the small details that the Hornets have been so much better at. You saw those start to slip. And so when people say, what's gotten into the Charlotte Hornets? It's about health, but it's also about these guys like Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Kon Knueppel, Miles Bridges, Moussa Diabate, Grant Williams, Josh Green, NBA-level players that know what to do when the ball is in their hands, but then the next level, playing together with each other consistently so that they not only know what they individually need to do, but they know collectively as a unit what everyone else is supposed to be doing. You know, and that helps you play with pace. I always said this, like, it's difficult to play with pace effectively. You can play with pace. You can run all day long. But it's difficult to play with pace effectively if you haven't been playing with the same guys, the same rotation over and over and over again, where you have that rhythm and understanding, particularly when you get into the middle of the season, when there's not a lot of practice time, when the games themselves are how you work each other and work yourself into a rhythm. Then it becomes vastly more difficult when players are constantly, particularly your best players, are constantly in and out of the lineup. Well, the Hornets haven't had that issue. lately, and so they get a 3-game winning streak here with a 130-93 victory over the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's take a look at some of these individual performances. But before we do that, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5. You get $200 in bonus bets if you win. And by the way, I'm typically joined by my friend Walker Mail from Wes and Walker, 12 to 3 on WFNZ. They're locally in Charlotte. Check his show out. He was on the broadcast for this game that was an early tip. It moves to 3 p.m. Eastern time, was originally slated for a normal 7 p.m. tip, but because of weather-related issues, they moved the tip back, and the Hornets, no worse for the wear. Maybe Philadelphia was, because they were on a little bit of a back-to-back situation. That probably influenced the decision not to play Paul George, not to play Joel Embiid. That's important context, I think, to understand some of the margins in this game. But the Hornets could have very well not taken this game seriously. They could have said, Paul George not in, Joel Embiid not in, we got this. Tyrese Maxey, sure, he's been playing at an MVP level, but that's it. That's all they got. VJ Edgecombe, rookie. That's fine. Kelly Oubre, we know what Kelly Oubre is. He used to play here. It's fine. The Hornets did not approach the game like that. They were serious from the tip. They were physical. Their defensive game plan against Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe was brilliant, showing the multiple bodies on the drive, helping the helper, getting physical with them. Moussa Diabate pointing that out at halftime. Like, how did you limit Tyrese Maxey? You got physical with him without fouling. You got physical early. There was a great play where Kon Knueppel isoed up on VJ Edgecombe, rookie on rookie, only one pick apart. And VJ Edgecombe decides to drive the basketball. Kon understood the tendencies, knew which way he was going to drive, and then did the work early, getting physical early, getting the arm out there early, and then getting his body in position where he's not allowing himself to be screened. He stays connected hip to hip with VJ on the drive. The help still comes. It's not just up to Kon Knueppel to hang with a more physical player in VJ Edgecombe at the rim, which, like, as much early work as he did still could have resulted in a layup. Instead, the help comes, and then you force a miss by VJ Edgecombe. And then most importantly, and what was pointed out by Brandon Miller as well in the postgame, was that when they did force those misses, what happened is that they pushed the pace. They got out and ran. They got transition buckets in this game. Points, fast break points, 22. Allowed 21, because there were issues in this game. Points off of turnovers. This is incredible, folks. What I'm about to tell you is incredible. And I just really want, if you're driving, you may want to pull over. If you're standing, you may want to sit, because this is incredible. The Hornets won this game by nearly 40 points. They were up 50 points going into the fourth quarter, okay? The Hornets turned the ball over 25 times in this game. They allowed 33 points off of turnovers. 33! That is more than a quarter's worth of points. In fact, it was a third of Philadelphia's points were scored off of Charlotte Hornets turnovers. They could have won this game by 80 if they had taken care of the basketball. I mean, incredible. I mean, that is, I really cannot even wrap my head around that. Wasn't a wire-to-wire victory, unfortunately. The Philadelphia 76ers had an early 2-point lead, spent 1 minute of this game leading. So not a wire-to-wire win. You can't have it all, Hornets fans. Coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast, I continue to celebrate this victory, tell you what it means, dig into some of the individual performances, just give kudos across the lineup here, maybe do a little looking ahead, and then later on in the show, oh yeah, it's Sicko celebrations. I'm going to the Sicko Brigade, and we are going to have a good time. I don't know how many people watched this game because it was at 3 o'clock. People got to work. It's a Monday. But we're going to see what the Sickos have to say 2 40-point quarters in this one. 41-point second quarter, a 40-point third quarter. The Hornets laying the hammer down. That's all ahead on Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you are right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Now, whether you're backing the favorite or you're riding with the underdog or maybe you're building one last same game parlay, this is the game that everyone has been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to that final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5. And here's what happens. You get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. The NBA trade deadline is basically here, and we want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club to help you get ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everyday Club gets you access to a group chat on Discord just for Hornets fans, plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league. You also get ad-free versions of the show, and if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use code DEADLINE to get your first month free. You can tap the link in the show notes to learn more. LockedOnHornets.supercast.com. Check that out. Check this out. The Charlotte Hornets on a 3-game winning streak and being led by Brandon Miller. If I didn't mention it in the first segment, Brandon Miller, 30 points, that led the team. Okay? That's the 6th straight game that Brandon Miller has led the Charlotte Hornets in scoring, but the first of those 6 games where he scored 30 or more points. In all of the other ones, it was 20 or less, and I think that speaks to the ball movement, to the ball sharing that is happening, that Miller is certainly, with his shooting ability, he is leading the way. His ability to get shots over defenders, his just always being available. And some of that is Brandon just knowing where to be. He has an excellent basketball IQ. Like, he understands, and he makes good decisions with the ball too. Like, he's rarely taking a bad shot. Like, unless the shot clock, I want you to just use your general mental idea of what it's like to watch a Hornets game. Okay? Just put yourself in that mode. I'm doing it right now, and I just can't, off the top of the dome, think of a lot of situations where Brandon Miller is putting himself in a position to take a bad shot. I can easily do that with Miles Bridges. I can easily do that with LaMelo Ball. I can do that with Kon Knueppel sometimes. In fact, in this game, not to skip ahead, but I mean, Kon Knueppel, decent game, 12 points, 8 rebounds. We'll get to that in a second. 6 assists, 5 of 9 from the field. A fine game, 4 turnovers, though. He played a little quick, put himself into a position sometimes where he's taking bad shots. And look, I would say most of the league does that. Like, you're going to take bad shots sometimes. And I'm sure Brandon Miller does too. But I'm just saying, like, when I get a sense of what it is to watch Brandon Miller play basketball, I'm like, man, that guy doesn't take bad shots. And it's benefiting him greatly right now. 9 of 11 from the field, 6 of 6 from the free throw line too. Drawing fouls, 6 of 8 from the 3-point line. Just an incredible game from Brandon Miller, and 19 points in the third quarter. Now, the Hornets go into the second half. They're up 25, but they gave away 4 points. They should have been up 30, but they gave away like 4 or 5 points there at the end of the half. And 25 points lead going into the half is not insurmountable, even for a team without 2 of its best players. This is the NBA for crying out loud. Like, you can come back from 25 points down, and the Hornets are not Oklahoma City. The Hornets are not some of the best teams, so, in the league with some of the best teams in the league that can close out those kind of games all the time. So not insurmountable. You needed to come out and set a tone in the third quarter, and Brandon Miller helped them do that with 9 points on 3 triples. He was a huge part of the Hornets building what would eventually become a 50-point lead. But you have to hand it to Charlotte for really stepping on the gas, and they've been doing this. Like they flashed the stat in the game, like their point differential in victories highest in the league. Like when they win hard. It's, when they lose hard too. They're still trying to find that balance and find that consistency, and maybe they're starting to do it. Maybe this is a corner turn in a sense, and it will be. And this is what I think we have to talk about for the rest of the week is like, what do these victories mean for the trade deadline as it approaches? Do they fall in love with this lineup so much that they don't make any tweaks, that they say, look, teams, if you want Miles Bridges, if you want some of these auxiliary players, the cost just went up because everyone's playing in sync. Because now, if we let any of these players go, we're paying, even if we get some equivalent talent back, we're losing chemistry, we're losing rhythm, we're losing being in sync. And so now that you have to attach a cost to that, and the cost is another first-round pick, if it's in the case of Miles Bridges. Also have to talk about the defense in this one, because I think I've spent a lot of time talking about the offense, but I mean, just the work that they did on Maxey. I just want to read the stats here on Maxey. 3 of 12 from the field, 25% from the field for Maxey, 6 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists in 25 minutes of play. VJ Edgecombe, 9.6 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 of 11 from the field, 18%. I mentioned the Kon play, but it was like everyone teaming up to say, when these two guys have the ball, we're going to focus up, put a body on them, get shifted over towards them, not let them, make them kick it out to Kelly. Make Quentin Grimes make a play. Make Andre Drummond rebound the basketball and put it up, because we'd rather that than have Tyrese Maxey, you just completely overwhelm us with his shooting. They had a game plan they executed. They've been doing that defensively. Charles Lee's doing an excellent job. I feel like he's won over even the hatiest of the haters this season. And it's just been an absolute joy to watch. All right, coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast, one last segment, and we're not done celebrating. I'm going to open up the Sicko satchel. We're going to check in with the Sicko brigade. They've been patiently waiting as, I've got some responses here in the Sicko brigade. Celebrations coming just ahead. Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets brought to you by our good friends at Game Time. There is nothing like being in an NBA arena, including when they moved the tip to 3 p.m. I hear that if you had an upper-level ticket at the Spectrum Center, they just moved you on down to the lower level. They said, we're doing this before everybody gets off work. We're going to close down the upper level, bring everyone to the lower level. It was a beautiful thing. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, which is with you. It's with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and you can have tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front. I love that. No surprise fees at checkout. Being able to see the view from the seat before buying tickets, that always makes my buying decision easier, particularly when I'm out of town and I'm getting those last-minute tickets. I want to make sure there's not, one of those big center block poles in front of my view. No, I want to see the game. Zone deals, they stand out. You can choose the section. Game Time picks the seats for you, and you save. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Gametime.co. Check it out. Back here on Locked On Hornets, celebrating a blowout victory by the Charlotte Hornets, 130-93. Got to mention LaMelo Ball before I get to the Sicko celebrations. He was a huge part of this victory as well. 11 points, 2 rebounds, 8 assists. His passing was masterful. His ability to get downhill in this game influenced all kinds of decision-making by the defense, and his ability to control the fast break made them more effective. He got it up top to Moose. He got it up top to Brandon Miller. He was an orchestrator in this game. Another game in which LaMelo shot not particularly falling efficiently, 4 of 12, 2 of 6 from 3, 2 of 6 from 2. You know, he's commanding a lot of attention when he gets inside the line, and he doesn't really have a rhythm inside the arc. His numbers, his percentiles, well below average well below league averages for inside the arc. So he's and maybe some of that is the minutes restriction. Maybe some of that still is the rhythm. He's got some work to do there in terms of becoming the efficient offensive player that we know he can be. But for right now, he is well making up for it, more than making up for it, with how he's commanding the offense. And again, going back to a point that I made earlier in the show, when you look at some of the lineups that and I'm not picking on these guys, but you look at some of the lineups because they're inexperienced. I'm not picking on them because it's just factual. They're just inexperienced players, inexperienced playmakers, and maybe some guys like Tre Mann playing out of role late in this game. And you see the results. It's turnovers. It's small detail stuff. It's that guy wasn't where he was supposed to be. This possession takes longer than it needs to get going. And all of a sudden, everything goes wrong in the offensive possession. It sort of snowballs. But with LaMelo Ball, that happens way less. With Brandon Miller being able to pull up from really anywhere on the floor, that happens a lot less. All right, let's get over to the Sicko Brigade. Sicko celebrations. We just got a simple go Hornets to start us off from Bigasito of Trapuca's Troopers. I love that. Just a simple go Hornets. Let's see who we got here. From Roger of the 23rd Tre Mann Division said, Doug, the guys look sensational out there on this 3 p.m. tip. I've seen a lot of anchoring of the defense and getting disruptions through passing lanes, blocks, and steals. They could work on protecting the possessions, but overall they had great chemistry. It makes me happy to see the guys playing together and lean on each other to compete against good teams like the 76ers. Yeah, look, the turnovers, if you're trying to pass and make a play, get entry pass, trying to make a pocket pass while you're driving, pick and roll, those you can excuse as like, hey, we're trying to make something happen here, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Opposing defenses are good. Sometimes you just misjudge the timing by a half a second and the window closes. But I think too many of the turnovers in this one were of the live ball variety, just losing the handle or making the decision to go into a defensive situation that you weren't quite prepared for and didn't have an exit plan for. And so those are the kind of cleanup, the kind of turnovers they have to clean up moving forward to try to become a little bit of a more disciplined basketball team, because those situations will get taken advantage of. They have lost plenty of games by close margins where they've also given up a quarter's worth of turnovers. And you look at those games and you say, okay, like those are games you could have won on nights that you weren't absolutely red hot from three, which they were in this game. From three, they finished 42% from the field. I can't quickly sort this by quarters 1 through 3, but I'll just tell you they shot 50% in the third. In the second, they shot 36%. In the first, they shot 37%. So I would say they were probably somewhere in the 45% range, quarters 1 through 3, slightly falling off in the fourth quarter when they shot 3 of 8. So, yeah, got to clean up some of the turnovers. But as Roger's pointing out here, they're countering it with great disruptions, great, getting handsy on defense, not fouling a ton, as we saw again in the Orlando win too. The not fouling part of this has been a big deal. And just staying in front of your guy. I mean, that's what MIG is all about. They talk about MIG all the time, most important guy. When Charles Lee came in, he said, look, MIG has traditionally been the low man, weak side who has to come over and help. But they shifted that from, no, it's actually the guy who is up top, man on man, staying in front of your guy, because if you give your help defense an extra beat to get into position, you're going to be much more likely not only to force a miss, but not foul, because you're not having to come over quickly and then go over the top. You've got time to set yourself, get straight up and down, and that's what the Hornets were able to do in this one. In fact, for the game, let's see here, free throws. 19 allowed to 27. So you're getting more free throws than you're allowing. That's typically, in terms of offensive efficiency, going to be a very good sign. Oh, all caps Sicko celebration. I love to see it here. Let's see if I've got a nickname for this one. David of the Desanya Jop Squad here saying in all caps, Schlotkin better go into the second apron when we give Brandon, Kon, and Musa the max. Well, Kon's a few years off. That's a problem that they'll have to address in a few seasons. Musa, I joked in the Every Hornets box score chat. I said, just go ahead and give him the max. Forget it. What the hell? Just go ahead and do it. He's so important. And the box score line is not even something that would jump out to you in this one in particular. Again, nobody played their normal minutes in this one. But just his defensive effort, his effort on the boards, he causes chaos. He causes chaos all over the floor. Only 5 rebounds, but 2 of those were offensive rebounds, and he was responsible for 4 second chance points. I don't know, 6 of 7 from the field. He's not. And here's the thing about Musa, and really I could say this about so many players, and this is another answer for why is the Hornets offense so much better than it was early in the season. Why is it so much better right now? Is because Musa and so many other players are not playing outside of themselves very often. Like, there will be rare moments of, why did you take that shot? That's not your shot. You don't typically do that. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's saying, all right, I got this. Watch this. Everybody move out of the way. Watch this. Even, I would say Miles Bridges was when Miller was hurt and when Melo was hurt, Miles Bridges was someone you could count on to play well outside their skill set. And so one could argue, well, he needed to. I wouldn't necessarily argue that, but one could argue that. And even he, I think, has played well within the bounds of what you would expect Miles Bridges to be doing game to game, contributing in ways that feel sustainable for him and feel sustainable for the team. So Musa is a definition of that. He's only taking shots where you go, yes, that had a high likelihood of either resulting in a foul or going in. I'm glad. This is Hallie of the 12th Dwight Howard division. I'm so glad Hallie brought this up. Go Hornets, Purple Heart, Teal Heart. Is Musa about to start raining threes? So Hallie is referencing a moment early in the game in the first half when Musa Diabate, shot clock on his back, a possession that had gone all wrong, heaves up a shot that looked, from my vantage point, like a 3, and it went right in. I mean, I don't think it touched rim. Maybe that's me fantasizing, but it went swishy swish, all wet. It was beautiful. Unfortunately, it was actually a long 2, but it looked like a 3. And in fact, degree of difficulty, I think it should have been a 2.5 at least. I mean, come on. Musa Diabate, are you hiding it under a bushel? Are you doing the thing that I accused Nick Richards of hiding that long ball under a bushel? I mean, Ryan Cockburner, we've been told he could shoot. At some point, hopefully, we see both of these guys start to at least try to expand that. Because that's been a criticism. To me, that's a criticism of this offense that goes back a long time, not allowing these guys to just occasionally experiment with it in game. Just seeing if they have something here. And it's more understandable with Cockburner. You want him to get early success. You want him to just focus on the things. I get that. But I go back to Mark Williams. I go back to Nick Richards. At some point, you got to let these guys try it in game, run something for them, and I don't know. It just seemed like it was never going to happen because it never happened. And then they would go, Mark Williams goes to Phoenix and Nick goes to Phoenix, and then all of a sudden you're seeing them take shots. And, I haven't checked in. I'm not a big Phoenix Suns fan, so I'm not checking in on their, efficiency. But, at least they were allowed to try. All right, so let's keep going here. Embiid is the Sixers' ride and die. The team doesn't work without him, says Yo-Yo. Yeah, I mean, the Hornets, I think, came into this one losers of 11 straight versus Philadelphia. I would say Joel Embiid was a big part, not of all of those games, but I would say he was a huge part of a majority of those 11 wins for the Philadelphia 76ers because Embiid presents a problem, particularly for a Hornets team that is getting bigger on the wing but is not particularly sized down low. That would have been very difficult for them. Here we go. J-Dog of the 44th Kenny Gaddison division says, love that we totally took Maxey out of that game. We frustrated him to the point where Philly's offense totally collapsed. Brandon's consistency offensively is getting really nice to watch. This is from Bam Bam of the 21st Ricky Pierce division, a.k.a. the Flying Big Paper Daddies. Good evening. These aren't last year's Hornets. Happy for the win. Should have been by much more if we didn't turn it over so much. I love that. That's a sicko mentality right there. No, I 40 needed this to be 40, 50, 60. Not enough. 130 to 93, not enough. Keep going. Ball security will get us bounced from the play-in again. Now that's the point. The point is not that they didn't win this one by enough. It's that eventually they have to solve that issue if they want to make it out of the play-in, because that will absolutely get exposed. All right, let's read a few more here. This one, Moussa Diabate needs to be in the conversation for most improved player. If you line up the stats with other guys who could qualify, he would stand out like a sore thumb, but the impact he has on winning is as profound as anyone on this Hornets team, even LaMelo. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? When you go to the voting and people who aren't as tuned into this team are voting, they're going to look at the stats. They're not going to do the deep. I mean, you can't even get Chandler Parsons to just do a cursory Google search on the Charlotte Hornets and what they're doing with LaMelo Ball. I can't expect anyone to understand the nuances of Moussa Diabate, who almost caught a Diabate in this one. Huge dunk, massive dunk in this game. Yeah, I mean, I just think Moussa is. I don't want Moussa as most improved player. I don't want any extra attention for Moussa Diabate. I want Moussa to be our little secret that we deploy with extreme effectiveness in the postseason. I don't want too much to happen there. Doc from Tyrese Thomas division says no signs of letting up in this one. All gas, no breaks. There's a future where LaMelo, Kon, and Brandon are all selected as all-stars and to all-NBA teams. The draft could be huge for us, but I just want to win. I mean, I think that's the sentiment of all Hornets fans. It's time to win. Like, the draft could be huge for the Charlotte Hornets, but just look at the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, they weren't actively tanking. The whole lottery is set up to encourage you to win and let the ping pong balls fall where they may. That's what the Hornets should be focused on. Bring a winning culture. Do the thing. I mean, they're already doing it, but continue to do the thing that Kelly Oubre accused the organization, Kelly Oubre, the leading scorer for Philly tonight, accused the organization of not doing for so long, building a winning culture. Terry Rozier, I mean, we all know the criticisms there. A little hypocritical, but sometimes hypocrites have good points. That, this Hornets team was not taking winning seriously enough. Now it seems like they are. This one comes from, let's do a couple more here. This one comes from Davis of the 8th Bismack Brigade. Are the Hornets good? Let's go. I think the Hornets are playing very well. Are the Hornets, what does good mean? Does good mean in contention to win a play-in game? I'm not quite there yet. I need to see some things. They would have to make some adjustments at the trade deadline for me to feel super confident about a play-in victory. But I feel more confident about this team because of the way they're playing defense than I felt about either of those teams that last made the play-in and got blown out, because those teams were literally, as one of the Sickos said before, all gas, no breaks. Actually, the Hornets are all gas and all brakes because they're able to play with pace and also shut down opposing teams right now. They are playing defense. Now, again, I just like, are they able to play offense at this level in a play-in situation where defenses do get better overall? Are they able to play defense better in offensive situations where it becomes about ISO star level basketball? TBD. My mind's open, but TBD. All right, I think I have one more. I don't want to leave it on the floor since I only have one more. Here we go. This is from Waxed Up Will of the 32nd Bayless New Orleans Company. Says, yeah, LaMelo been on fire lately and looks healthy. The pass has been on fire. He does look healthy. The minutes restriction, which I have no problem with, of all the criticisms that I've laid on the Hornets about LaMelo Ball over the past couple of weeks, I have no problem with the minutes restriction. Keep him healthy. My problem is with not starting him just to say 4 minutes, not starting him, and what the effect of that is on how they start basketball games. And the data just doesn't lie. But LaMelo has looked healthier. Obviously, the minutes restriction is doing something. He looks healthier. And because you have to remember, it's not just about his past history. I mean, it is in a sense, because the past history with the ankle injuries was affecting him early in the season. But it is about that early season period when he was dealing with, ankle impingement, ankle soreness, ankle tightness. Like all of those things were limiting his ability to play good basketball. And so they made a calculation. Let's get 25 minutes of good great LaMelo basketball at the expense of having 37 minutes of okay LaMelo basketball. And that's a calculation that I think is going to work this season. And the question is that going to be the calculation that they make next season? What are they going to do there? But those are questions for another time. For now, we celebrate. The Sickos are celebrating. 130-193 your final score. Hornets win 3 in a row. They're going to try to make it 4 in a row against Memphis. And they've got a day of rest here before they play on Wednesday at Memphis. They go back out on the road for a 2-gamer against Memphis and Dallas. 2 very winnable games against 2 teams with players that are injured, star-level players that are injured, and John Moran and AD that both could be traded, before they even play. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then San Antonio, big test. Prime Video, kind of half a national TV game by my estimation. That's a 3 p.m. tip as well. 2 p.m. Central here I'm looking at. San Antonio, that could be a big test. If San Antonio decides to play Wemby, it's going to be a big test for their defense and their offense. Because paint decisions have been iffy for the Hornets this season. Sometimes they've been too willing to go in at shot blockers and get stuffed. So Wemby will make you pay for that. So that could be a big test coming up. All right. Walker will rejoin me this week. We'll talk all about it. Thanks so much for making Locked On Hornets your first listen. Check out FanDuel. Check out Game Time. Check out everyhornetsboxscore.com. Wes and Walker, 12 to 3 every single day. Go Hornets. Go America. Let's swarm Charlotte. Let's keep winning.